So as you can see, before I begin sewing on my actual book cover and ruining it, I went ahead and pulled a test strip, a part that I had cut off and feels a little small to use for anything else. And I'm just trying different settings. Each machine is different. My sewing machine has a dial here, which I have marked on there loose, so I know which. I always forget clockwise, counterclockwise, which is which. And I have a few other dials here to use. So I'm just going through my dials and trying to find the stitch that I want. This being the first one, and when I flip it over, you can see very loose, where the stitch was tight, but this was too loose. So, I tightened it a few dials and to get it to where I want it. So here, this is a nice straight stitch on the back and very nice and tight on the front. So this is the last one, and I'm going to leave the settings the way that they are so that this is the one that I get. So as you can see, putting it together here, I have this sewn in, and I'm just trying to place where this decal is going to go. And I'm going to mark it with a pencil on here. I don't want to stick any pins because this plastic, the holes will stay. I did use pins for up here, but you can see I did it at the top, which is going to be folded over and no one's going to see those. But for here, this is the front. Everyone's going to see it. So I want to make sure that I don't stick any pins, that I use pencil marks that can be wiped off later. So let's see here. So with this is where the fold will be here. And that's about center and about how far up I want it. So I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to start sewing it into place. Okay, so here's the part where I'm all done sewing, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to fasten my bookmarks before I proceed from here into gluing. Now, there are a few options you could do here. I have 3 strips just because I like the number, and I figured I could probably use more than one at a time. You could, if you wanted, make one for each chapter if you already know ahead of time what kind of book this is going to be. So if this is going to be a portfolio book and you work in 3 different mediums, then you could have one mark for each one, and it would be really cool that you could quickly go to each section without the use of tabs on the pages themselves. But, it's up to you. You could just have one, or you don't need one at all. For me, I'm just going to choose 3, and I just thought, I like the number, and, who couldn't use more bookmarks? So so that's what I'm going to go with. So they're all dry, ready to go. This is sewn together, and that's basically how it's going to be. So now I need to figure out how it's all going to be stuck together. So I have these edges that are going to be folded over very tight and glued down. And the trick is, let me see if I can turn this whole thing around here, how to fasten these so that they are functional, or at least in the best possible way. So if you look here at the edge here, so this is going to be tucked underneath, right? Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Okay. How should I fasten these in? This edge is going to be tucked in. I should probably have this side up. I know how I want it. I want it sticking out kind of like that, which means that it would need to be fastened like this, if you can see that, so that it bows around and goes in. So this side needs to be up against here. I could stitch it into place, and being that I haven't pulled this flap in yet, this is tricky, because if I were to fasten it like that right now, then that would mean this would flip in, and then this would be all the way inside the book, and it would have to curl back on itself to come back out, and it would just be kind of messy. So I think the best thing to do at this point is to go ahead and fasten this outer part first, so everything's tucked in nice, and then try to attach these before attaching my pages. Now I'm ready to glue. I'm using the Jade PVA glue. a crappy brush, certainly not my nice watercolor brushes or anything like that, because we are using glue. We'll probably end up just tossing it. This, I believe, is plant fiber and wood. I mean, the metal won't biodegrade. I'm sure I could probably rip that off and recycle it, but let's see here. I don't think I want to try and rinse or clean anything in the sink. So I think this is all just going to get tossed. Okay. So this is the PVA glue. And I'm just going to pour some of it into this cup. It smells like Elmer's, even though it's not. And I know in printmaking there are many glues that resemble the white Elmer's glue, but they're all very different in the way that they dry and the way that they are in the end. So don't be confused by that. So I'm going to paint it onto the back. It's so thick. It's really hard to get it on smooth and even. It's just trying to grab this and take off with it. That's what it's trying to do. I want to make sure I get the edges really well, because I don't want my edges coming undone. I want this all very smooth. And it is so thick, really hard to brush on. I mean, this brush is getting a workout. It's really pulling at those bristles hard. Get those edges really well. I'm going to end up probably getting some of this onto my fingers, but I'm going to try not to get too much of it. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to flip it over. And I do have pencil marks, so I know where to put this. So it goes down. Yeah, it's really grabbing onto it. I mean, it's on there pretty good right now. It's not, I can't budge it. I can't move it. So it's on. It's on good. Perfect. So I'm gonna make sure everything is smooth on the other side. And that there's nothing lumpy underneath this. I mean, it's the tile, but I want to make sure the fabric is stretched smooth. That there are just no lumps anywhere. And I think I'm gonna, what can I use as a weight? Right now I could just use my pages. They're fairly heavy, but not that heavy. And I'm going to move on to the spine. Now, once you start gluing hinges for the spine, you're going to need to give it that room. So the best way to do this, set this aside, go ahead and place it how it would go, like that. And then pull it up. And I'm going to mark it. Where's my pencil? It took off on me. There it is. Okay. Helps if I have my pencil. So I have my pencil, and I'm just going to mark. So when I bring it down, well, that time it didn't move, but sometimes it'll shift when you lay it back down. So now I know that, nope, this is where it needs to lay. It needs to back right up to that line so that when I glue this down, which I might as well start now, it doesn't get too close. There we go. Now I'm going to back it right up to there. It just grabs right on. Yeah, that's where it needs to be. Somebody got on my fingers. I didn't get it on the book, did I? No. I'm just pulling the fabric. Make sure that there are no wrinkles and that it's going on straight. That's nice. That's good right there. So I'm going to go on to the next one. So then this one, just going to look at the spacing from the other and comparatively space this one the same. So that looks like it would be like the other, and if I test it out, oh, it's a little far. Pretty good. Right about there. Double check this other one. I might need to go a little closer if it'll let me. Ooh. I don't think it will. It's already starting to bond. Nope, it's not going to let me move it. So note to self on the PVA, make sure it's exactly where you want it, because once you put it down, it starts grabbing onto it. It's not going to let go. That's fine. The book will be slightly bigger than it needs to be. But that is the match for it on this side. And just see if I can get my spacing right. Okay. Might be easier if I glue it while it's in this position here. So I think I'll do that. I think I'll just spread the glue on it like this. It does have an overhang, so I shouldn't get any on my pages, but I also need to be careful because it is right underneath. It's not sticking to my fingers and making them glue together like super glue would. So it's fairly easy to handle. Okay, perfect. Over there, that lid on. Okay, so let me set this down. Make sure I don't have any of my fingers. Bring this up. You know what? maybe this is better. So you can see how I'm able to smooth it on. I want to make sure this cover of all things is on the way that it should. So it has been maybe a minute after completing this side that I laid it down. Check the other side. I want you to see this bond. Look at how good that bond is. I mean, it's going to start pulling up the top coating on this backer board. It's on there. So it's very quick drying. So I'm going to go ahead and fold over the edges and do those, and then I'll be right back. So I did two sides so that I could show you this next step. What I had done was I cut the corners, and the way you want to do that is if you were to sketch out this, if you were to trace this, you'd overlap here and overlap there. So that little X hanging over, that's what you would cut. So here I have this edge is pretty well glued down with the PVA. It's doing such a great job. Really is. It gets it like it's ironed. I mean, it really gets it so flat and tight in there. And after a few seconds of holding, it grabs onto it and stays down. So you really don't have to clamp it and wait. You can just hold it with your hands and with your fingers, and you'll feel it starting to grab a hold and set, and then you can let it go. So you can see this edge here, if I can stay out of my light source. There's a little bit of an overlap, so that if I were to fold this over, there'd be some overhang. So you want to trim it and get it right up to this edge. If you're really worried, what would be even better would be if you left this piece on and just folded it so you get that clean edge. I did not. I'm going to do my best to cut right to that line. If I overcut and I cut into here too far, then that's going to leave a mark. So what I could do is I could even give it a slight angle. I could cut a tiny triangle. So from here to here, so this part's wider, so that it slowly gradiates in if I don't feel I can make that perfect cut. So just be careful on those corners. So after just a few minutes, it's dry enough that I could fold it up and take a look at it. And you can see here, these parts here that are folding, they're folding in the wrong direction. I want them to fold in. So once I put a leather cover over this part, it'll be the same part that attaches the pages. But once I put that in, then I will put glue in between there and make sure that these are glued in and they don't pop out like that. So the next step now is out of, I believe I'll do it out of this color. I'll decide in a moment which color I want to do, but I need to make a strip that comes up the middle, and it will be what holds in the pages. And then I'll be right back.